Welcome to day 3 of the series Let's Look at the Self. So today we're moving into the upper part of the legs. We are going to look at the hamstrings and the quadriceps. The hamstrings, they are tendons which are strong bands of tissue at the back of the legs, and they attach the thigh muscle to the thigh bone, the femur. You've got the quadriceps at the front, which are known as quadriceps femoris because they do attach to the femur bone. And the quadriceps cover the front and the sides of the femur. In Latin, quadriceps is known as four-headed because there are 4 muscles within the quadriceps. And these are the rectus, the vastus intermedius, the vastus medialis, and the vastus lateralis. And the quadricep group of muscles are the extensor muscles of the knees, and they allow the legs to extend. So let's first of all bring ourselves into a neutral seated position with the back erect and upright through the trunk of the body. If you like to have a wall behind you to assist with keeping the spine upright, then do so, but also acknowledge the abdominals and activate them so that they engage with the spine and keep it upright, keep it lifted. For far too many of us, our abdominals are the things that we let go of first. So we want to reignite them and get strong from the core once again. This will help hold you upright, keeping your head directly over your shoulders and your head and shoulders directly over your hips, bringing about great alignment, whereby all your body weight begins to be distributed equally and evenly. So, we'll connect with the breath first. In these beginning moments of the session, it's good to focus on the breath. Bring some quality of breath to the body. Allow the body to let go of the day it's just had or the night that it's having. You can practice at any time. Just keeping in mind that when you come to the mat, or even just the rug or the floor, that you're remembering it's time to look at the self. Nothing else matters. The outside world will still be there when you go back into it. But for now, you're going to tune in to the breath. So close the eyes. This allows for you to have greater observation internally of the self. And if we reflect back just 2 days to when we were looking at the breath, we're acknowledging now that it's good and beneficial to take in a complete breath, to fill our bellies, our chest, our upper body with this breath, to really allow our rib cage to open, front, back, sides equally, to draw in the power and the health of oxygen. And as we let go of that breath, to experience surrender, letting go, releasing. Taking the time to check that the skin on the face is soft, the jawline relaxed. So Unclench the teeth. Let's unpick all stress and tension. For right now, none of it is needed. It is not required. We're taking this precious time to reprogram ourselves, to reverse all the years of conditioning that we may have set upon ourselves that sometimes restricts our true potential as a human being. We're allowing our minds to open now as we look at the self. Understanding that the more we know about ourself, the greater understanding we have of our physiology, our physicality, and our psychology, the more chance we have of better understanding another. For all of us humans have more in common than we tend to allow ourselves to admit to. So we've connected with the breath, refreshed our mind, ready to look further at our legs. Recapping that in our feet we start with the bones of the toes, the phalanges, moving into the metatarsals, and the tarsal here around connected with the calcaneus, the heel bone. The tarsus connects into the tibia and fibula, and at the back we have the Achilles tendon, that really tough tendon at the back that we need to take good care of so that we don't tear it or injure it. We want to keep it nice and mobile and supple. And we've got our gastrocnemius and our soleus muscles in the back of the calf, inserting into the patella, the knee bone. And then from here, we have our hamstrings. Now they insert from the back of the knee and they go all the way up to insert into where we have our gluteus maximus and our gluteus medius, the buttock muscles. But our hamstrings here, they're strong bands of tissue and they're attaching our thigh muscle to our thigh bone. And then at the front here, we have our quadriceps femoris. And these act as extensor muscles of the knee so that we can straighten the leg, extend the leg. So let's look today at some movements that will help the quadriceps and hamstrings to lengthen and stretch, to strengthen and gain greater flexibility. Very simple techniques. Let's bring ourselves into a tabletop position. Nicely placed, our hands under our shoulders, and the energy rising up from the hands to the shoulders rather than collapsing down. And then we've got our knees directly under our hips and hip width apart. So first of all, we're going to stretch through the legs, including the stretch of the Achilles tendon and the calf muscles in general. So take a breath in, and as you exhale, just begin to straighten and extend the right leg, Now, as you straighten and extend the right leg, you're going to push the calcaneus, the heel, away from you. So it's going to be pointing towards the wall behind you, whilst your hamstring lifts up towards the ceiling. Now the quadriceps at this point will engage as well to pull the femur, to connect with the femur and lift it up. And then just gently roll backwards and forwards on the right toes, a little rocking motion in time with the breath. So as you stretch back, breathe out. As you roll forward, breathe in. Unclench the teeth and look at the self whilst you're making this movement. Really feel it and experience it. And then return to a central position, remembering to avoid collapsing the stomach muscles. So you want those abdominals to lift up, scoop up, and pull the belly button toward the base of the spine to lend it support. So that while you're practicing the stretching of your legs, you're also increasing the strength of your core. Let's go with the left leg now. So be aware as the quadriceps help to extend that left leg, and the hamstring here rises up to the ceiling as the heel moves back. A nice soft jawline and skin on the face, and then do that little rolling forwards and backwards, really tuning in to the position, the movement, right down to those bones of the toes, the phalanges. And then return to a central position, a central tabletop. Now yesterday we went into dog pose head down, which was helping us to stretch out the calf muscles, and this position also is for the hamstrings and the quadriceps. So let's go into it again, and this time we'll be observing the whole of the legs now, really feeling them all at work to assist with this position. So turn your toes under, rise up through the energy of the hands, up through the arms, and take a nice breath in as you lift the knees, engaging the core, the stomach, engaging the quadriceps, because they are allowing your legs to now extend and straighten. Once again, let's look at the alignment of the head and the neck. So you want to get your ears brushing on the insides of your upper arms. And then have a nice breath in through the torso, stretching from the head, the crown of the head, all the way up the spine to the tailbone. And then bring that stretch as you exhale, that surrendering release, down through the backs of the legs. So you're really allowing some surrender in the hamstrings, and it may take a while for very tight hamstrings to loosen. So if you cannot get this full straightness in the legs at the moment, then do have a bend in them. Remember to look out for compression of the bones in the front of your feet, your tarsus, with your tibia and fibula, which may indeed become apparent that your heels won't ever reach the mat in dog pose head down. You can bend and straighten
alternately, and if you slow the movement down, in time with taking deep, long and complete breaths, you'll be able to gradually surrender any tension that has been accumulating within the legs. You'll be able to continue to let go of this. And with that continual ability to release, you'll find new flexibility and suppleness growing. Then rise up onto your toes and still controlling your core, your abdominals, by keeping the belly button in and activating the muscles there. Bring yourself to lower down, and you can bring the buttocks to the heels of your feet, and you can either extend your arms forward and bring the forehead to the mat, or you can extend the arms alongside your body, fingers pointing in the same direction as your toes, and rest the forehead onto the mat. And just really let go, especially across the upper back, those deltoid muscles in the shoulders. Just unpick any tension you may have there. Just breathe out and surrender. Sometimes it helps to sigh the breath out. And then bringing the hands forward, engage and activate the stomach as you rise up. And then just take your feet to one side, bring your buttocks to the mat and stretch, extend the legs forward, making use of the quadriceps. Now, a very good exercise for building strength and tone in the quadriceps is the squat, which we'll be going into next. But first of all, we're going to do a forward bend, a seated forward bend, which will continue with that stretching through the backs of the legs. And we can try and build up here a nice circular breath that's going to travel round, helping us to draw space in and then to surrender. Now, for many of us who maybe have a sedentary lifestyle, or we find we have to sit in a chair for many hours of the day over a PC or a laptop, so you may find that you're a little bit slumped and that you can't reach the toes, but not to worry, we're going to reverse that cyclic behaviour that's been incorrect for a while and put it into alignment, correct alignment, so that we can actually hinge forward correctly and use all our tendons and muscles as nature intended. So one of the first points to start with is to get a straight spine, and you might find that if you are slumped over like this, it will help to get your hand, grab your gluteus maximus and pull that fleshy part out behind you to the wall behind you. And do this on both sides, and then that helps sit your ischium further forward, the very base of your pubis. So if you've got a bit of this going on and you need to adjust, just slowly but surely, and this will be over perhaps many times of practice, you can then begin to straighten yourself. Look at the self. Look at your legs. that are going to now take a stretch. Be ready to experience it fully. Get the breath flowing. And think about when you breathe in, the breath creating space through the backs of the legs, travelling up through the torso, exhaling, surrendering forward. The breath will come in through the soles of the feet, it will travel up the backs of the legs, creating space, rising up through the trunk of the body, the torso, and the exhalation will take you forward. So again, the breath travelling along the legs. Now when it reaches around the gluteus maximus, the pelvis, the tummy, the breath in, it's going to rise up. It's almost like this swelling up like a wave that then crashes forward, releases. So just keep this in mind, that you've now got this circular breath going round, up through the legs, helping them to stretch, and at any point that you feel that you've got a slight adjustment happening again, then have that tilt of the body forward, so lift the gluteus muscles out from underneath you and push them behind you. And get to a point that is comfortable for you. So even if you're here, this is great, as long as you've still got that feeling of a breath coming in and creating space, and then an exhalation out, surrendering. It takes time, and patience is one of the best things you can have with yourself, because it's going to take time for the body to let go. As soon as that clicks and the body begins to become hyper aware of how it feels to let go, then you've got the ball rolling. So if we recap back to looking at our feet as well, and how we can draw the toes towards the trunk of our body by pushing the calcaneus forwards and drawing all 10 toes towards us. Little pinkies included, if you can reach them, just give them that little extra nudge in the right direction. Don't judge yourself if your hands are not reaching your toes yet. If they're here, then great, rest them here. And just keep giving that simple technique of connecting with your breath, observing the self, feeling it. There's no rush. And if you feel any tightness, then allow this to dissipate with your surrendering exhalation. If you feel any shaking in the legs, once again, be aware of this and just back off a little bit, because if there's any shaking in the legs, that's your nervous system telling you that you are overstretching. The ego in all of us is going to want things to happen at a greater speed. It's always wanting a rush, it's always wanting everything to happen immediately. Yoga is not a quick fix, it's a lifetime of abundance. It's a lifetime of suppleness and flexibility. You're forever gaining that and never losing it, as long as you keep up your practice. So then activate your core as you bring yourself into an upright position. And come round
into a cross-legged and centered posture now, preparing for a squat position, which is going to work the quadriceps. It's going to stretch and tone the hamstrings. It's going to really look at the Achilles tendon on both left and right side, and will stretch and tone them. It's going to work your adductors, your inner thighs here. And it's going to build great strength in the feet and the ankles. And ultimately, it's a fabulous position for massaging the internal organs here, especially the stomach and the digestive tract. This is an all-round good and nutritious pose. Squat position. It's a position of truth. We start by bringing our feet hip width apart, and to start this position with great truth, you might even want to go wider. You might find it's easier to have your feet wider than hip width. We're going to take our hands beside us. We're going to breathe in and pick our buttocks up and bring them forward towards the heels of our feet. Now, if you find that this is unattainable for you right now, then you could have blocks beside you, or even like a thick book. Whatever happened to the yellow pages? Extinct, but they used to be great for using as blocks. Accommodate yourself into the position. Have a breath in, create some space. And when you feel ready, you could maybe bring the hands forward. And at this point, if you find that your heels won't go down, that's fine. You can come up to the toes for now, whilst you adjust and adapt and feel the position. You might want to widen your feet. You might be able to bring the feet closer together. It all depends on your bone structure, your skeleton, your skeletal frame. So this is about looking at the self. You're working for yourself. It's your journey, your discovery. Now we're going to go into the fullness of the squat position. If you find that the heels of your feet cannot go down onto the mat, then you're going to lift your gluteus maximus and gluteus medius, your buttock muscles. You're going to lift them to the point where you have your feet flat on the ground. So if that means you're right up here, that's fine. You can rest your elbows just above the knees. Avoid holding on to the knees. You don't want to put too much pressure on the patellas, the knee bones. You might like to widen the feet here. Remember to not roll on the instep. So avoid doing this. Avoid your knees collapsing down and rolling onto the instep. Instead, gain an idea of your adductors, your inner thighs, and roll them outwards. Roll them outwards. You can use your hands to do this as well, to help, to assist. So you want to get weight coming into the outer edge of the feet. Now remember, your quadriceps are really working now. Those four-headed muscle group, they're all working. The rectus, the vastus intermedius, the vastus medialis, and the vastus lateralis. They're all engaging now, holding on to that femur bone. So you might feel a little bit of a burn, but if you remember to breathe in and breathe out and keep the oxygen flowing, that'll be fine.
And in time, every time you exhale, you'll surrender. Your Achilles tendon will stretch a little bit further. And you'll be able to drop down into a full squat. You can bring the hands into prayer position. When you breathe in, you'll feel your belly button moving forwards. As you breathe out, the belly button, pull it in, back and down. Giving a lovely massage there, internally. And be aware of your back, your lower back, your upper back, the sides of your body, your rib cage, your vital organs, your lungs and your heart. Everything is working as nature intended in this beautiful squat position. Lift the insteps of your feet, avoid collapsing inward. Lift your inner thighs and roll them outward, and that will help stabilise your position. Have patience. If you're still up here, that's fine. You might have to practice here for some days and some weeks. You might like to even have a chair in front of you to rest on. And every breath out is going to stretch and lengthen all those strong bands of fibrous tissue in your legs, all those strong groups of muscle. They're all going to start working as nature intended with your patient and persevering practice. And from here, you can gently sit yourself down into your neutral cross-legged position. Close the eyes and become aware of how you feel internally and externally. Space made, strength increased. From day 3 at looking at the self. Come back tomorrow. We'll start looking at the pelvis, the stomach, the core, and the torso.